Very good. Thank you, Will. Welcome, everyone, to the February regular meeting of the Multnomah Neighborhood Association. It is February 11th at 7:05. This is Moses Ross, President of the Neighborhood Association here in Multnomah. I sure will. Right now, we have 14 people online, and we have 6 people in person. So without further ado, let's jump right into this. We do have a few things that we have to get off the plate here. First off, the agenda is visible here. Wait a minute, let me make sure that everybody online can see that as well. Sure. There we go. The agenda is online right now. Also, I'm going to put in there the, where is that at? The public folder, the public meeting folder has the documents for this meeting. Give me 20 seconds, everybody, and I'll make sure to get those on. Oh, I'm taking too long here, Moses. Come on. All right. Well, I'll have to get to that. Will, can I ask a huge favor, Will? Will you please post in the chat the public meeting folder link?
Link to the public meeting folder? Sure, I can do that.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then, oh, here we go. Gosh darn it. Okay. Okay. What we have right now here, though, let's just go over quickly the agenda. First things first, we have in the public meeting folder the agenda. It's also posted on both Zoom and in person here. If there's any changes or the revisions that are needed to tonight's agenda, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll run with what we have. The same would hold true for the minutes of the last meeting. Those would be in the minutes, would be in that public folder as well. And that the link to that is in the chat. Will's putting that in the chat for all of us. I see Mark Booth with his hand up. Hello, Mark.
Hi there. I just wanted to point out on the agenda under new business number 2, the motion from MNACAC. We're not going to be bringing that motion tonight.
I did, and I had, gosh darn it, I brought up the wrong agenda here. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, I have a new agenda here, but I brought up the wrong one. I actually changed it. 20 seconds here. Oh.
Okay.
Okay. Anywho, yeah, Will, Mark, thank you. Things were going so smoothly. I had a new agenda and everything. My apologies, folks. Here, 20 seconds. Let me. There we go. That's the real one. This is the real agenda that everybody's seeing here. So if beyond the changes to the agenda, we also I've taken that off of the new business as far as the CAC proposal. The previous minutes are in the agenda, are in the public meeting folder for folks to review if they wish. If there's any changes, please let us know. Let me know. The review of the meeting procedures, I wanted to put that in there because we have new business. We do have a motion that has a wider voting audience for it to pass. Normally, it's many of the motions are just for the members of the board to vote on, but this amendment is for all those that are registered as members that have registered as a member of the neighborhood association. Will has the credentialing, and when we get to that point, we'll make sure that you're credentialed before we vote. And so, and we'll just be using the meeting, as far as the meeting goes, that part of the meeting goes, I'll be doing a Robert's Rules of Order format. Prior to that vote and after that vote, I go back to a more informal, just chairing of the meeting and running it by consensus without the formality of Robert's Rules of Order. So we'll be getting to the meeting. When we get to new business, I'll pass the baton to Will so that he can go over the credentialing parts of this before we actually have the vote. As far as officers' reports, I do not have one. I know that the treasurer does have a financial report that he has submitted that was available in the public meeting folder. I do want to pass the baton to our treasurer, and he can give his report.
Thank you, Moses. And thank you all for coming to the meeting tonight. My finance report is really a repeat of the report I submitted in January, but there was a huge popular outcry of one voice who said it was so inspiring that I should present it again tonight. I wasn't able to attend last month's meeting, but the report opens with just a recap of the financial history of our neighborhood association, because we incorporated basically 2 years ago this month. And when we opened our books, we had zero money in our bank account. A year later, after a little bit of fundraising, means a year ago, last January, we had about $1,900 in the bank, and that tied us through the winter. And today, I deposited checks for 2 grants that brought us to about $20,000 in the bank. So this is really a remarkable statement of growth in both the activity and the financial strength of our association. And I want to thank all the people who have come up with just brilliant program ideas and ideas that have attracted grant funding, and some entrepreneurial projects where we're basically selling our services for graffiti and trash abatement to businesses. And it's really a remarkable trajectory of growth that we are on. And I'd like to see that the spirit of entrepreneurism and collaboration with other community organizations in the neighborhood continue into 2025. Are there any, anyway, keep up the good work, everybody. Are there any questions about the finance report? Let me just, was that a question, Julie? Were you raising your hand?
One question. Am I gonna be a problem with my voice? If somebody came to us today with an idea to support the community, that was wonderful, that required a big financial investment, like $5,000, is like, what would be an idea for, like how much would of our money would be available for a grant in 2025?
To fund projects?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a decision that I would, well, the process would be to talk to the treasurer and let us know what the idea is, and probably the sponsoring committee chair. And let's sort of talk through what the little bit project plan would be. What kind of expenses do we foresee? Are there some fundraising opportunities that we could use to offset expenses? And depending on the size, I think depending on the size of the project, I would want to bring it to the board and make sure that there was board consensus or board support. It is, let me describe just really briefly how I view my job. My job as a treasurer, I think, is to do everything I can to make um, the things that people want to do happen, and then organize them into some, according to some financial conventions, so that our statement of activity and our statement of financial position are understandable to and credible to the outside world. But my job really is to make cool stuff happen around Multnomah. That's sort of my personal mission. Um, so if you want to see something great happen, bring that idea to me. My aim is to bring a budget for 2025 to the work session next a week from tonight. But we're in a financially strong enough position so that if there are new ideas that come up along the way, we have some opportunistic flexibility. And I just want to encourage us to keep doing those kinds of things. Does that answer your question, Julie?
And, one point of clarification before I pass the baton to Diane and Matt, to Diane. And that is, the amount that you had mentioned was about 20,000, but that's in specific grant money that we have received for projects. That's not above and beyond profit that we have available. So, I imagine you have somewhere on one of your reports, the available funds, cash on hand funds. And I venture to say that those are probably going to be less than $2,000, right?
That's a good point, Moses. Many of those $20,000 are what are called donor restricted or board designated. In other words, they have specific projects to which they're assigned or attributed. The report I did last week, if you look on the second page, you can see for the funds available for general operations out of the 20 some $1,000 is about 9,000. So 11,000 of that is attributable to specific projects.
Very good. Thank you. Diane?
Hi. Yes, I just kind of wanted to follow up to Julie's question and Peter's point. Is there if someone did want to have a project for the community and needed some funds, do we have a process and procedure in place for requesting those funds? Or is that something that the board is going to be working on in the future to have some sort of a process in place that anyone can submit and that then can be reviewed by the board during the meeting?
That's a great question, and I'm so glad to hear you thinking that way. Right now, the process is, and you've heard me say this many, many times, just talk to the treasurer and let's talk through what you have in mind. I think we need to develop a more formal process for entertaining great new ideas, but we have not done that yet.
I might mention one thing too, Peter, is that many of the projects have been coming up through the committees, and then they are vetted by the committees and brought to the board for review. That's one way that a project could be properly vetted through the group and assessed. So if there is a project that relates to, that can be brought up at the committee level, it seems it would be very advantageous for it to be reviewed and approved. It's like, for instance, like with the little free library, that came through the livability. The community events committee brought through its grant and received a grant for the repainting of the mural. And so it kind of had that natural flow to it. And so I would think that would be the best way to bring a project to the neighborhood association and for sponsorship, if you will, and funding, is to go through one of the committees first. Then there is the second option, as you say, is to then maybe going straight to the treasurer and, and building consensus that way. And I think I could see us creating a form for folks to fill out, project form that the board could then review and give their approval for review and approval. But I would think that the most solid vetting process would start through the committees. Would
Yeah,
you-
that's a really good point, Moses. Thank you for making that. Eventually a project needs to land on one committee, whether that's where it's organized or not. So one would, if you were not on a committee, you would want to approach the committee chair and have the discussion there too. So yeah, we need to structure the process a little more because as we have more and more wonderful ideas, I think we're going to have more and more work to do through our committees or create new committees. I want to, as a topic for our work session next week, I want to touch on committee structure a little bit, but that's for another time.
All righty,
Um,
sounds good.
Can
Oh,
I
Beth,
can I just ask one more question before is there the sense I'm getting is that what people are really interested in about our finances is how much money we have in the bank and how much money do your committees or your projects have to spend. And if there's anything else that people would really like to see as part of our financial reports, please let me know. I plan on quarterly to publish our formal financial reports, our statement of position and statement of financial activities. And I can run reports on any topic or project you like with about 3 days notice. So if there's anything in particular that you want to see on a regular basis or just an ad hoc report, please let me know. And I'm happy to answer any questions about finances anytime. Corinne,
All right.
you got the hand up. Oh, I'm
actually,
sorry.
Beth,
The president is supposed to recognize the speakers.
yeah, thank you. Beth, I saw your hand up first and then Corinne.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm wondering, since we are now capable of being fiscal sponsors, do we want to do that? If so, how do we go about doing that? And would any of these potential projects be eligible for our fiscal sponsorship?
Wow, that's a great question. And I think that's going to require full board buy-in before we start to do fiscal sponsorships. Fiscal sponsorships is just for the folks that are on in the audience is a special designation given to a project that requires fundraising that where us as a neighborhood association and as a 501c3, a nonprofit organization, in essence, is the fiscal sponsors the project so that any fundraising that is done for the project goes through the 501c3, the nonprofit, and so it's tax deductible. But any monies that is raised for that project is specifically devoted to that project. So this was a role that our coalition back when it was Southwest Neighborhoods, Sweeney, they would take that responsibility on and be the fiscal sponsor of projects at the neighborhood association level that required a lot of money, be it whatever it may be. And then that way, the benefit was that the neighborhood association didn't have to do the bookkeeping. Also, the donors to the project were able to get the tax deduction because it went through a nonprofit. So it's a great question. I don't think I think we're almost about ready to start to tackle those, Beth. I know that our finances under Peter's stewardship are much more organized than they were 6 months ago. And so we may need to start looking at that. I think, but before we do that, I think we need to have a discussion as a board and make sure that we want to take on that type of responsibility.
If I could just add, it's not the first time I've gotten that question. And when I send you a list of the requirements of being a fiscal sponsor, you will blanch with terror. We basically become responsible for the finances of the organization that we would be sponsoring. And the list is enormous of our responsibilities. I think it will be years before we're in a position, either financially or in our capacity, before we can provide fiscal sponsorship for other organizations. But we could talk about that at the work session next week also.
Yeah, sounds good. All righty, I'm noticing the time of 7:26 and we are behind schedule. So I'm going to jump. Does the secretary have a report? No, she does not. She's shaking her head. No, great. Next up, announcements. This will go very quickly. The first announcement is that it's been requested and approved by your president that committees, the Spring Garden Park Committee will now be referred to as the Friends of Spring Garden Park. And this is due to a desire to lessen the confusion of the committee and its tasks. Everybody knows it as the Friends of Spring Garden Park, and so we just recently changed that, and so that's what we're doing with it. It's called the Friends of Spring Garden Park. And next up, we have the Multnomah Historical Association. You know what I'm going to do right now? It's 7:27. Do we have, Will, do we have anybody, is Patty here? I can't tell if Patty's here or not.
I have not seen Patty on Zoom, and if she's not physically present there, I don't know what happened. I tried to get her confirmation she was coming, but I hadn't had a response recently. She was planning to come or have somebody from the Historical Association here. But if there's no,
Will, can you do me a big favor and in a 2 to 3 minute summary of what's going on with the Multnomah Historical Association?
sure.
All right, great. Thank you.
Okay. We and they, as just a recap for people, the Historical Association, at our invitation, moved their materials from a paid storage location into Neighborhood House for safe storage and avoiding $150 a month fee for storing it. That's been a great opportunity for us because here we have the history of the neighborhood right there available. And what's happening now is they're organizing the materials, and we're working out arrangements as to who does what and what our overall relationship is. But the aim is to have a strong relationship between the Neighborhood Association, Historical Association, and actually Neighborhood House and others. There's a lot of interest in preserving and making available the history of the neighborhood. And I and Julie has worked on it, and Peter has worked on it. There's several people in the association. Moses, I think you have a real interest in the history of our area and making it lively and current. So we're looking forward. I'm sorry Patty isn't here. She could go into more, but we're scheduled to get together with her and the people from the association to work further on the relationship.
Great. Well, thank you. And just a passing thought. I can tell from the email chain thread that discussed the Historical Association and its collaboration with us for storage, that we have taken a great weight off of the Multnomah Historical Association, and one woman in particular, Patty, who had taken on the sole responsibility, the responsibility on her shoulders, both financially and organizationally, to keep the Historical Association alive. And now, with our help, it's not going anywhere, and we'll be able to have a good track record, a good history, a good inventory of the history of our beautiful neighborhood. So I'm just pleased as punch that we're doing this one. So good stuff. Right. Let's move on to the new business now. Let's get this vote out of the way, Will. We have a motion to approve the proposed M&A bylaws to make changes, to approve an amendment to the neighborhood association bylaws. In the Google folder, the public folder, there is the exact wording, and I will get that if you can give me 20 seconds. Peter, do you, is this one of your, who can speak on to this amendment, or this
Okay,
motion?
I'll share the motion on the screen if you'd like.
Oh,
Will.
thank you, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. This is an idea that came up in the fall as I started talking about with employees of businesses in the neighborhood, and to see if they would be interested in becoming members of a neighborhood association. Because right now, membership is limited to residents, business owners, property owners, and sort of by special request. And everyone I talk to, which admittedly is not a statistically significant number, but everyone I talked to was enthusiastic about becoming at least a path to membership. And so I introduced this idea at a meeting. I did it rather clumsily, I will confess, because the governance committee had disbanded and there wasn't a clear way to introduce an amendment to the bylaws. So I threw I threw an amendment out for consideration by the entire membership. And you'll see that amendment on the screen before you. So this would add people who have a different kind of interest in the affairs of the neighborhood. And I think it would be a wonderful way to strengthen our collaboration with the business association also. So I would encourage you to vote in favor of it.
Now, one thing I do want to mention about this motion is that the reason that we postponed it to today's meeting instead of voting on it last month was the voting, the ability of more people to vote on it. We needed a quorum of 12 members. And well, so let's do some credentialing. Let's see if we have quorum today.
Okay, let me get back to where I am here. Okay, I did a count of members as I saw it. This is a bit different from earlier times when anyone who lived in the area was automatically a member. Now you have to actually consent to become a member and be accepted within a month to become a member. So I have the member lists, and I counted the people who were here both online and at the meeting, and I came up with 15 members. So that is a quorum. We have 15 members present. If you'd like, I can read the names and see if there's anybody who is a member and didn't get listed. Would you like me to do that?
Yeah, let's do that just to make sure that you've got everybody here in person.
Okay. Let me filter here. Okay, I have as members present, Mark Booth, Lisa Carney Fenton, Claire Dozen, Pam Fox, Amanda Fritz, Edith Fuller, Will Fuller, Julie Leet, Beth Omansky, Diane Parrish, Peter Sampson, Corinne Wallace, and Carolyn West, and Matt Parrish, and Moses Ross himself. He is a member as chair. The
We
president.
also have in person here, we have Mary Knox.
Oh, Mary Knox is here now. Okay, good. Let's see.
Santurno? Sanjuro.
That's
How
it?
do you spell your
Anybody present who is a member and did not get named?
S-A-N? S-A-N-J-U-R. And that's your,
That's my first name. Last name is J-O-G.
Okay. I can't hear anybody.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. We have another resident, Sanjuro Jodego is here, and he is and then we also have Aaron Beck, Aaron. Here, let me type it.
Aaron Beck. I don't have him listed as a member. And who was the other one?
Aaron Beck is his
Who
name.
besides Aaron Beck?
Sanjuro, he's been here and he signed, I believe he signed up last month.
Oh, okay. I don't have him listed. He hasn't. I missed him, so I'll put him in Sanjero. Okay.
Okay,
So that is definitely a quorum. I count 17 members or 18
Wow.
members were here. Yeah.
fantastic, actually.
Good.
That's great.
Okay.
Okay, so just to reiterate the motion that is on the table right now, it's a motion that is adding employees as eligible for membership into the neighborhood association. So the text of the motion is that full membership approve an amendment to the bylaws expanding categories eligible for membership in the association to include individual employees of businesses located within the Multnomah neighborhood.
Okay.
So right now we have, did you say 17 voters, eligible voters?
I believe so. I had the 15. I added Aaron and Mary and Sanjuro. And that makes 18 members by my count. Okay, so that's the quorum for sure. You want to
13.
open it
So
for
we need
discussion?
14. We need 14 to get 2/3.
Get two, it has to be 2/3 members or a majority?
I believe it's a 2/3 approval
Somebody have the
for a
bylaw?
bylaw amendment,
Oh,
not just a majority vote. Peter?
I have the bylaws. It'll take me a minute to find the provision.
Okay. As soon as we figure this out, we're just going to go ahead and have the vote. Guess we could do.
we might see if anybody wants to discuss it first, but
Sure.
Yes, it requires a
Very good point.
two-thirds vote.
And, it's being brought up here in person that with a motion, and this is very correct, there's a procedure for having a motion. First, we discuss it. And part of that is you have a yay and a nay. So I want to let Mary, I'm going to pass the baton or the microphone to Mary because she brings up a really good, oh, Aaron, pardon me. Here, go ahead.
I thought it's such a small voting majority here that it'd be really easy for a small business with several employees to just completely overtake whatever the issue was at the time. I don't know. It's just a thought.
That's a great point. When we became, oh God, I'm gonna picture this. When we became a 501c about a year ago, we moved to a board directed vote. So while there could be a lot of input, collaboration, they couldn't all vote for everyone to get purple hair.
excuse me, would you please use the microphone? We can't hear you on the Zoom.
I'm so sorry. I said very intelligent things for the last minute. I was trying to explain that, right? You're welcome. So what I was saying was that it's true that, if Grand Central Bakery said, I want all our employees to attend and say, get purple hair or something like that. The way that we're set up because of the 501c now, the board members still get the vote. And so there's still some checks and balances. And now everyone will correct what I meant to say now.
So that was a good point. Does anybody else want to comment on the motion?
Hi, this is Claire. I'd like to comment. Is this redundant with the Multnomah Business Association? It seems like they're potentially getting membership to two entities to express their thoughts or interests. So I'm just wondering if that's been considered.
That's a solid point, Claire. I think
Maybe
It-
Corinne, who's our liaison to the business association, maybe she knows.
or pardon me, Corinne, would you like to comment on that? Are you on the line?
While we wait for Corinne, I will say that the only possible member of the business association that I think has been in attendance has been Ken. I don't know if he's attending now, but I don't know if there's a lot of overlap. I don't know how many people want to attend lots of meetings. So I don't know of any potential conflict currently. I see your point long term.
I believe the membership of the business association is limited to business owners, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
What
Yeah.
is our membership right now at?
Membership
know?
is about 70, call it 80 members with the new people that I haven't just.
That's the question. Well, it's a question. Does the board or does the association do like political endorsements?
No.
Okay, never. So it's never gonna be something like we could. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
The question is whether or not we do political endorsements, and we do not do political endorsements. Just because of our, quite frankly, because of our 501c3 status. That is, yeah. Lisa,
But
go
we
ahead.
can vote on issues.
Well, I'm curious, who brought the motion and what was their reasoning for it? Were they feeling excluded? Why is there this motion?
Who sponsored this motion? Was it you? Was it Peter?
In my view, it was to broaden the outreach to members of the Multnomah community and to open up a new category that wasn't so heavily dependent on ownership of capital or assets, a way to sort of diversify the socioeconomic profile of our association.
Thank you.
Are there any other thoughts or comments on the motion? If there are not, I'd like to go ahead and go to a vote, please.
Could I just make a comment? I had my hand up, but not
So,
on.
I'm sorry, Amanda, please, by all means.
So I'm a member of the bylaws committee, and the feeling was that some employees spend more time in the neighborhood awake than some residents who maybe work outside of the neighborhood, and that the employees of the businesses, I don't think there's going to be all that many of them because I think many of them are vested in their own living situation, but that it would be welcoming to make them known that we value the work that they do in our community.
Very good. Thank you, Amanda. All right, well, let's go ahead now and conduct the vote. I'm going to do this semi-informally here, but keep in mind, we have to take in, I've got an in-person and an online audience here. I can count the in-person audience very easily, the votes of the in-person audience. But the online audience, Will, I'm going to be relying on you to help me with that count.
Well, we could do a formal poll from Zoom, or we could simply have people raise their machine hand to vote on a yes or a no. If that was, it's not completely secret, however. And,
How about why don't we do why don't you go ahead and set up a poll, sir? And in the
Okay.
meantime, I'll take Diane's question.
Okay,
Diane?
I just was gonna be a bit of a stickler and make sure you had a first and a second for this motion.
Very good point. The motion as it has been presented. Actually, no, because this came from a bylaws, because this came from a committee, it does not require a second. Very good point there, though, Diane. Normally, motions do require a second, but with it coming from a committee, it does not.
Okay.
All right, what Will is doing right now is he's setting up an electronic poll on the Zoom so that folks that are beaming in can just click on a link and vote yay or nay. A yes vote would be yes, we approve this. A no vote is obviously no, we do not approve this. And once that is ready and pushed out, I'll conduct the vote here in person. Yes, Beth, go ahead.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that this motion did not come out of a committee, but I believe that it did have a second when it was first presented at the meeting that it was first presented at.
Does it need to be amended to say as long as they are employees?
Yeah, I think that you may be correct. Do you remember? Obviously, this has been sponsored by, do I hear a second for the motion, just to cover our bases there? Would anybody like to second? Julie has seconded the motion. So now the motion is on the table, in both fashions. Will, how you doing on that poll? Once again, Will is creating a poll that for everybody online. It won't take him but just a sec.
Moses, I have another question, if I
Sure.
may. Would it be proper to ask to vote by acclamation on this?
It would be proper, sure. I mean, absolutely.
Well, I wonder if we,
What acclamation is, just for other folks, is that if it voted in favor of it unanimously. So for the easiest way for me to go about asking if we can vote, approve it through acclamation is asking the opposite. Is there anyone that is against this motion? And if someone is not in favor of this motion, then obviously we're not a unanimous, and an acclamation has to be unanimous.
okay, at this point, I am ready to launch the poll on Zoom. Who's going to be taking the count in person?
I will be the one to count. I'll count everybody.
Okay, here comes the poll. What you do is you vote yes or no on the question, and then we'll carry on. Here we go.
Yeah, then we'll vote. So there's a motion on the floor for us to approve the motion as it is. All those in favor, please say aye. Please say aye. All those against? Very good.
Oh.
Your president did not vote, which is kind of standard operating procedure on these types of motions. So it was a tie, but in person, we have three people that have said yes. Sanjuro,
Okay,
Mary, and Julie.
there are 13 people listed as eligible on Zoom, but it may be people like Moses and Julie who are in person as well. But at this point, I have 9 people voting on Zoom. Are there any more people to want to vote? Okay, so I'll end the poll.
Will, sorry, Will. We were only able to vote once. I vote yes.
Okay, you voted two. Okay, well, add a yes to it. So there's 10. So at this point, there are 10 people voting on Zoom, and 1 was no, 9 was yes. So, okay, at this point, so there's 9 on Zoom that voted yes, 1 on Zoom that voted no, and in person, what was the count?
3 for yes.
3 for yes. So that's 9 plus 3, that is 12 out of the 13 votes. So I would say that's the 2/3 majority and it passes. I'm
Very
not,
good.
all right. And I'll share the results if you want, just for curiosity. And that's the count.
All right, I do want to thank everybody for participating in that. And the motion has passed, and we will be changing our bylaws accordingly, and we'll have them available for review at the next meeting, updated. So thank you.
Beth has her hand raised, I believe.
Oh,
Okay, here it is.
sorry.
Beth, did you have a question, or was that left over?
Whoops.
It's gone. Never mind. It's gone. It's back. It's gone. Okay, thank you very much, Beth. Okay,
I'm
so
sorry, that was a leftover.
yeah, no problems. Okay, so we have conducted all the new business of the night. We have a vote. The motion was approved. Next up is committee reports. You'll notice on the agenda that I have added I've changed the order a little bit here of the committee reports. I wanted the MSRV, CAC, the Multnomah Safe Rest Village Community Advisory Committee, who has submitted a report, which is in the public folder. I wanted them to be able to give their report first because there's a little bit of discussion that we need to have along with this as well. So I'm going to pass the microphone to Mary Knox here in person. Are you giving your...
Mark, do you want to give the report, or do you want me to? I have it up on email what Paloma submitted, but did you prepare something? I'm asking Mark Booth, who's on Zoom. Or Lisa, and there's Lisa. Hi.
Yeah. I went through Paloma's report and sort of tried to tighten it up, and
Great.
I'm prepared if you're not.
Go for it.
Okay. So just to remind everyone, the 4-member MCA, MNA CAC reps attend all stakeholder meetings each month regarding this Safe Rest Village, and the stakeholders include the City of Portland, Shelter Services, the West Hills Christian School, and the 4 of us. And the area of concern and discussion at the January meeting related to the SRV were noise, perimeter security and lighting, neighborhood parking, and unregistered vehicles. Some of these issues are ongoing and some are new. The ongoing issues have been a concern for a while, but it's not that we're not working on them. We are.
Excuse me, Julie, Lisa?
Yeah.
Your voice is distorting. Can you lower the volume on your microphone some way so that it's
Sure.
easier to hear?
Is that better?
A little better, a little more?
Better?
Okay, try that. Sounds good. Thank you.
So I just want to emphasize, everyone, it's not that we're not working on them. We just, things come up. We're working with this many different stakeholders. Sometimes the process is long and painful, but we do the best we can. At our last meeting, noise was not discussed. We did not have time to discuss that at the January meeting. Also, at the January meeting, we learned that the Urban Alchemy continues to patrol the extended engagement area between 7 a.m. and 4:30, and they focus their attention on the West Hills Christian School at drop-off and pickup. Urban Alchemy is initiating conversations with the houseless individuals in the area, and they're taking action to connect with them regarding housing options. If Multnomah neighbors need to contact Urban Alchemy, they can reach out via their dispatch, and I have that phone number, and it's also should be on the Safe Rest Village website and the Multnomah neighborhood website. The area near the pathway, and this is sort of related to perimeter security, it's where Moss Street meets at 25th near the fence line at the West Hills Christian School. And during the summer, spring, and fall, when the weather's nicer, that area sometimes can be problematic for litter and loitering and other issues. So this area is within the extended engagement area, and Shelter Services is arranging for an organization called Cultivate Initiatives to perform a one-time landscaping project along that pathway at Southwest 25th. And the West Side Watershed Group may at a later date do some sort of natural improvement project to that area. The next item was lighting. Shelter Services contacted adjacent neighbors who've been affected by the excessive lighting at the site since the lights were turned on at the end of 2024 in connection with the expansion, and the site is now at capacity at 100 pods. So all the lights are on. 6 neighbors responded to Shelter Services, and based on those responses, 8 of the lights were turned off. 1 neighbor seemed satisfied with that result. The others are not so much. So Shelter Services is looking into lighting alternatives, although they said the spotlights on the tall poles will remain on. The other issue was parking. PBOT is still working on setting up the parking only permitting that is adjacent to the SRV along Southwest 25th. This parking will be for staff and residents, all of whom will need to have registered and licensed vehicles in order to park and obtain parking permits in that area on 25th. Shelter Services is working with the Safe Rest Village residents to assist them in getting their vehicles insured and registered. And the last issue was unlicensed, uninsured, and unregistered vehicles. This is a rather new issue since December. There are several unregistered, uninsured, approximately 3 to 5 vehicles that are parked in the Multnomah neighborhood because they're barred from parking on site. One CAC member has repeatedly expressed concerns about this situation. That's me. But Shelter Services in the City of Portland does not seem to share my concerns about the unregistered vehicles parking and driving in the neighborhood. City of Portland's response to the concerns was that all Oregon drivers with car insurance are required to have non-insured motorist coverage. So that's my summation of Paloma's notes, with a few opinions, personal opinions thrown in, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's Mark.
If there's no questions about that, I think what we'd like to do also is have a little bit of discussion about the lighting issue with the larger group here and get some inputs. If that's okay, Moses?
Yes, that'll be fine. We've got a few minutes.
Okay. We've had this lighting issue that has carried on. Really, it's affecting the adjacent neighbors. It started almost as soon as our little committee started at the end of August. It's really the problem is that lights are shining into the neighbors' homes, and it's the design of the lighting and the type of light fixtures that have been used. While we have tried as a smaller committee to collaborate with the larger committee and include others from the city who might have been involved in the design and construction of that, the city hasn't really stepped up to that, and instead in December decided to try shutting off a few of the lights. So and then Lisa just pointed out that one neighbor was okay with it, but the 5 remaining neighbors that had responded to the city were not okay with it. So we've been sort of working alongside the GNA, working in the confines of the GNA as a process to try to collaborate with the city in solving this problem. And they seem disinclined to do anything more. I think the notes say that they're looking at other lighting options, but those other lighting options, if any, aren't intended to solve this issue. So we're struggling. We don't, we've done everything we can according to the Good Neighbor Agreement, except for go to mediation. We're not sure what we would get out of mediation. But we feel like there needs to be a little bit more leverage and so we're looking for advice and support from the neighborhood for those adjacent neighbors that are impacted by this lighting.
There's a question from someone here.
Just what is the explicit purpose of the lighting for the Safe Rest Village? So, but just generally, I mean, I was wondering, could they not use like cameras like with infrared, you know, or is it to deter?
So we don't know exactly all the uses for the lighting. I touched on this, but we as a committee of 4 had offered ever since September and into December, getting together with the designer, the electrician, the of course shelter services, the folks at Sunstone Way to understand, you know, what was needed there inside for the lighting. And it sounds like other than sort of general illumination, they do need to bring up the lights inside for certain emergency events. But it's general sort of safety for walking around because they have pods and then the pods lead to the containers that have the restrooms and so forth. What's happening though is the lights that are there are aimed out and they're spotlights. And so the lights just kind of washing down and the city's not made any effort to direct the lights down.
Oh, it's the city that's doing the lighting.
The city has stood up the facility, yeah.
City Shelters is responsible for the physical site. And, you know, we have repeatedly asked to meet with designers. We don't understand this lighting. And they pretty much have told us they did this. This is a done deal. And to change each spotlight would be $10,000 per light, which we can hardly believe. But I think what Mark's alluding to is that, you know, we've kind of run out of options as our little group of 4. And we want to know from the MNA, you know, is there some support or help or ideas of how to move forward? Because I don't know that we have anything more to say.
I mean,
we're talking about lighting right now.
Yeah. Well, didn't they also they had originally 5 lights that were up, and didn't they turn 4 of them off permanently?
I don't know the exact count, but the situation is for the 6 neighbors most affected, what they've done has not changed the illumination of their living rooms and kitchens and bedrooms. So I, you know, I can't speak to exactly how many lights have been turned off. I mean, our feeling is the lighting design was completely inappropriate. And I work with some of the people who live in the Safe Rest Village and they say it's lit up like a prison. You know, it's not a, you know, but we've talked to them about this and we're hitting a wall and we want to know, you know, we're reps to the MNA. You know, so what do you want us to do? What does the MNA want us to do? How do they feel about it?
And that's also short of going to mediation, because according to the Good Neighbor Agreement, the mediation process should have been resolved in a month, and we're 5 months later.
And if we go to mediation, we aren't clear who pays for that. Whether if MNA is the one who calls it, do we have to pay for it? That's not really spelled out in the GNA.
Peter, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just want to say it's astonishing to me, unfathomable that the city ended up with this lighting design, because we knew that the lighting was a problem even when there were only 28 pods. And I think lighting, I wasn't attentive during the 2016 winter shelter, but I think lighting was a problem then too. And so, I mean, what the heck were they thinking? But that aside, um, I wonder, I know the motion calls for, I think, 19 households to be sort of in a study area. And have we made, I know you guys have done some door-to-door work, and have we made contact and have we built a database of all 19 of those households?
What do you mean 19 households? I don't know what that means.
I do.
Oh, okay.
I'll lower my hand. So there are 19 households you picked up from the proposal that was in. Yeah, we were at that. So without hopefully spending too much time on that, at one point during the conversations, during the conversations, one adjacent neighbor went ahead and filed a nuisance complaint. And the nuisance complaint wove its way through the city. Somebody from the city apparently came out and did some measurements and took some photographs. And the city shelter services, part of our community advisory committee, brought that up, and they shared a screenshot of some oblique city form that didn't really have any information on it, but they were using that allegedly result, to say, well, the lighting seems fine, according to these folks, even though the neighbor that had actually filed the nuisance complaint had never gotten the results back. And we, early in December, thought, well, okay, there is a city code that talks about off-site impacts, and specifically glare. Glare is measured in foot candles at the site of it would be the property line of the adjacent affected property owner. And so we thought at that point early in December that, well, maybe we do have somebody come out and do these measurements because it's city code. And also maybe that person who's a lighting expert can talk to things that are associated with good neighbor lighting. The good neighbor lighting term is in the good neighbor agreement, but it's not defined anywhere. So it seemed like at that point, the city was talking about foot candles. And so that was the purpose of that study. And we just tried to get a number for the study for 19 adjacent properties.
So my question is, do we have the means now to contact all 19 members in a single email or whatever kind of database?
No, because we've held off on that while the city came up with their other final
interpretation of the code.
offer. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's one more question though. It occurs to me there are other neighbors in our neighborhood that may be having similar problems. There are 5 or 6 houses down at the end of Canby, the Gabriel Park end of Canby, and their backyards are adjacent to the post office, which has a high pole spotlighting all night long. And this trucks start clattering to load up their work at 4 a.m. And I wondered if there may be some solidarity to be gained by seeing how those people have dealt with it, because it's been there for years. I don't know. Here's some other people maybe to talk to who have some ideas.
Yeah, Will has mentioned that. Oh, Will's got his hand up.
If I could, I actually talked to a couple of the neighbors there that are adjacent to the post office. They don't like it at all, but they're resigned to living with it, and they have gotten basically light blocking shades and earplugs. But it is glaring light. It makes it really kind of makes the Safe Rest Village look pretty dim. I can't believe that that's less than half a foot candle or whatever at the property line. It must be more. But there's definitely a concern about that kind of lighting, but I don't think they felt empowered to do anything about it.
Something I've learned in this process is there's a thing called night skies that we've looked at, and I don't know if anyone in the neighborhood association knows more about that, but it sounds like this post office and the Safe Rest Village are sort of not in compliance with the Night Skies initiative that the city of Portland passed in 2020 or 2021.
I can speak to that if you'd like.
Sure.
'Cause I did look into it. I looked at the Night Skies Initiative. It's called the Dark Skies Initiative. It's for migratory birds who get distracted by the bright lights and either get killed or off track or whatever. It has more stringent requirements than we would need there. Like it has to be warm light and so on and so forth. But there are certain basic things that are in it, such as getting shades so that the light does not go beyond the property that's being lit. It's not an expensive process if you start from scratch that way, and it's a pretty straightforward thing. I don't think we need the Dark Skies Initiative, but the city endorsed the Dark Skies Initiative for the birds, and we can't do a similar thing for the people.
Yeah.
This is Moses. I want to I do want to mention a conversation that I had here recently with newly elected city commissioner Eric Zimmerman. And I mentioned to him the problem that we were having with the lighting. And he mentioned his desire to help us. And so I may recommend that we, perhaps I can get us arranged a meeting with the CAC, the M&A members of the CAC with the city commissioner. And let's just see what he might be able to do, because unfortunately, the way I'm reading all of this, the shelter services is saying our lighting is within code. And that's all we have to comply with is it compliant with city code? And they're saying, yes, it is. And so there's not much they can do more not much willingness to try to mitigate it even further, because they technically and legally are within the confines of the law, the code. Now, having said that, we have neighbors that it's shining in their front rooms or in their bedrooms, and it's bright, and and it's the same thing with the post office. We've got those neighbors that are having these problems with their lighting. So maybe it is time to go up a pay grade. And so I will commit to reaching out to the commissioner and telling him, maybe inviting him to our next MNA-CAC meeting. Or if anything, maybe we can write a letter to him expressing our problem. Maybe I think the letter might not be a bad idea if we could, but whatever we can do. But I think it might, given the circumstances right now, these commissioners are, or where they're at right now, they're new. We might be able to catch them on a good day. Maybe we might be able to get some help that way. Other than that, I'm not seeing too many ways to resolve it beyond what Will is saying, that the folks at the post office have been, how they've resolved their issue with those lights, with the blankets and the earplugs. I mean, just being blunt, I'm not sure how else we can get them to adjust it.
Well, one of the thoughts we had at our last meeting is we have a hard time believing this $10,000 per light just to change out the fixture, just to put a shade on it, whatever. So one of our members was going to look into seeing if we could find a lighting contractor who would be willing to give us a ballpark bid. I mean, to do a serious bid, we'd probably have to pay for their time and they'd have to get on site. But we just really have a hard time believing that. And if we could give some numbers as pushback, if we could at least get those fixtures changed. I mean, the height of the poles, I think everybody feels it's inappropriate. They made a mistake. But
height of the poles, see, and you raise a really good point there. The height of the poles, they put them at the top of the poles that are spread out on that property, and those poles were abnormally high anywho. That was a problem that we had back when it was a women's shelter back in when Charlie Hills was mayor, and they converted it originally into a women's shelter, was those lights.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're same issue, different decade.
So one of the, I mean, we'd have to bring this as a motion, but one of the things M&A members and board could think about is, would the M&A commit any funds for us to do some studies and research in the hopes that we could push back with real numbers? And I know you can't answer that. I know that's the process, but.
Well, I think that that's one of the reasons why we're having, I'm certainly wanted to have this conversation with everybody tonight, is because I know that the CAC members have been working on this for the last 6 months. And it probably feels like you're on an island out there, and you need to let us, I'm glad that now we all kind of know better the challenge that we're having. Does that make sense? Yes, go ahead, Lisa, please.
So my husband's helped me understand the problem. Here's the problem. Can everyone see this? The poles are too short. The pink is the current situation. The poles are too short. They put bright lights and they're spotlights and they shoot horizontal. The comparison I'm going to make is driving up Barber at sunset and the sun's blinding directly in your eyes and you have to pull the visor down because you can't see. Street lights are up high and they shoot down and illuminate an area. Does that make sense, the drawing? So we've got the pink pole where all the lights going straight out. We've got many of them. They're too low to the ground, and then they shoot the lights horizontal instead of up above and shaded from the top. So we were hoping some sort of fixture, instead of it shooting horizontal, it would also shade to just keep the bright spotlights away. So I love your idea about reaching out to the commissioner. I would love it if you could contact him in a letter explaining the problem. And I think really he'll really realize the problem if we could, after initiating a contact, have him come on the site and meet with the CAC and yourself at the site. I think most people I talk to drive by the site and recognize that it's overlit. And is there any here who's doesn't live near the site who's attending tonight that has any sense that it's bright? You want other people in the neighborhood see it? Do you?
It is bright, but I mean, I live right behind Loaves and Fishes, and their parking lot is bright. And they have cars that come on at 5 a.m. to start cooking breakfast for folks, you know, and I deal with it. And so but I'm just saying that, yeah, the other parts of our neighborhood have similar challenges. But I will reach out to our counselor, our new counselor, and to see if we can at least get this one resolved. You know, and I'm noticing the time, it's 8:18 now. We've got 2 more minutes to talk about this. Peter, Will, I'm assuming your hand is still up from the last time. Peter?
No. I just have one more question. My impression as I drive by at night and say how ridiculously bright those lights are, it's the tall poles that are the problem, but you're saying it's not?
All the poles have bright spotlights on them. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I think they've turned off one, but there's on the southwest corner, as you kind of enter their parking lot, it's been called a halogen light. I think it's sodium vapor or whatever. It's one of 2 that were pre-existing, and the city hasn't turned that off yet. But they added, as a part of this expansion, 20-foot tall poles, I believe, in the ground. And then on the top of those poles, they added a couple different types of lights. One type is it's a spotlight. It's not shielded. And those are probably the most problematic lights. And they're just sort of pointing out or pointing maybe down 5 degrees, but they're intended to sort of broadcast light out from the end of the light. And again, they're horizontal, like Lisa's sketch showed. They're not pointing down and they're not shielded. So you see that light source, and you also see the brightness against the the sky and most of the lights going up in the air or around instead of down. So they're just.
Well, I would certainly support getting Commissioner Zimmerman in on this. And does the CAC, I mean, you guys are the ones that have the argument most best developed. Can you compose that letter? Or Moses, is that something you want to do?
That's a letter I'd like to at least, yeah. And
We can
I don't necessarily have to explain the problem to him in that letter. I just want to get him to our neighborhood so that we can talk to him face to face. That's what I would like to do. Diane, I see your hand up, please.
Yes, sorry, Moses. This is Matt. I just wanted to take a moment to thank Lisa and all the others that are doing this work. We really appreciate it, and I know this is a difficult situation, and it is going to take some creative solutions. And I appreciate you reaching out and asking for our input. Thank you.
Well, and I think I am also very glad because I think it's all part of the educational process for the rest of the membership here of what the CAC has been dealing with over the last 6 months and trying to mitigate the effects of this, of the Safe Rest Village on the neighborhood. So, yeah, big tip of the hat. Thank you.
And I would just like to end by saying, we're in the trenches over here, guys. We're not doing murals and parks and all the fun stuff. We're really trying to keep the neighborhood safe. And so we appreciate your support.
All right, so I will follow up on that and I'll commit to follow up on that and I'll be in touch with Mark, Lisa, and Mary here shortly with results from that outreach to Councilor Zimmerman. Let's see here. Next up. Okay, so that's the report from the CAC. Now we're going back into our committee reports. Up next would be community events. Community events is Pam Fox and Corinne Wallace. Pam, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. It's up to you.
All right. Corinne, we've got our committee report here. Are we going to talk about things in addition to what's on the committee report, or are we making it quick?
I think just quick. I don't have a whole lot that's not on the committee report outside of like further details about the projects, but I think we make it just relatively quick, or any details that are new compared to.
Okay. The only thing I have that's new that's not in the committee report is just like hot off the press. We're working on a traffic safety event that's to take place March 31st in the Vermont corridor in the area of 45th and Vermont. And things are still coming together, but it's a collaborative effort between several schools in the area over there, including West Hills Montessori School, as well as the 3 neighborhood associations. Hopefully all 3 of them get signed on, Maplewood, Hayhurst, and Multnomah. And Safe Routes to School is helping partner on that. So just stay tuned for more details coming on that. The event will be March 31st, and any adults are welcome to come, hold signs encouraging cars to slow down and heed the speed in the school zone. There's been some safety issues in the crosswalks over there with kids. I think that's it for community events.
I don't think I need to
Awesome.
share a
Thank
whole
you,
lot
Pam.
that's not on the committee report. Just Village Park project is moving forward with some momentum in the spring. We're planning a summer concert series and working really well with our neighboring nonprofit organizations. Southwest Trails project is also moving forward, just work in progress till we get to a point where we can share it out and ask for volunteers on both projects.
Corinne,
Yeah.
There was Southwest Trails was proposing a project along Southwest 25th there by the school.
Mhm.
Has there been any word on that?
You know,
may
I
know
think
of?
Julie actually knows more about that, and I talked to Southwest Trails today. I should have asked them, but I believe Julie has more context on that project than I do.
Julie had to leave,
Okay.
unfortunately. She got a phone call from a kiddo saying that they're sick.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so she
Yeah.
ran home. But I thought you meant no.
Yeah, I just know that it's in progress. Julie had mentioned conversation with Southwest Trails. I can follow up. I have a follow-up call scheduled with Dave, who's their trail builder, on Thursday, and I'll see what else I can suss out about it. But
The reason I bring it up is because, as mentioned in the CAC report, they are scheduling with a group called Cultural Initiatives a cleanup of that of the shrubbery on 25th there. They're doing some work on it as a Safe Rest Village community project.
Cool.
And I was thinking we could collaborate with Southwest Trails and they could do their thing at the same time. They're scheduling their thing on March 7th, I believe, but I can confirm the date with you later.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds
Okay.
like a good project.
Yeah. All right, good. All right, thank you, community events. Livability was the subcommittee that was up next, and unfortunately, Julie had to leave because she has a sick kiddo. But what I can say is that we had a very successful Martin Luther King Earth Solve event along Barber Boulevard. And we picked up trash all along Barber. We did some painting, got rid of some graffiti there along Barber. We had over 30 volunteers, and we've got another one coming up at Earth Day. And so if you would like to learn more about that, make sure to look at the next upcoming Multnomah Messenger, and we'll definitely get some information out about the Earth Day one that the Livability Committee is doing. Okay, next report is the District 4 Coalition. Beth. You are up, Beth.
Hi. Yeah, I had to unmute myself. Well, my report that I submitted is fairly lengthy, but I'm going to try to keep this little report short. I did make a suggestion in that report that we start thinking about merging our land use and transportation committees to be in alignment with D4C's Land Use and Transportation Committee. In the meantime, is Stefan here? Stefan, are you in the meeting?
No, I don't. He wasn't able to make it tonight. He had a work event.
Okay. Well, I don't know what he thinks about that, but I guess we can find out. But in the meantime, I'm going to be forwarding invitations to him to attend encouragement to attend the Land Use Transportation Committee meetings. They're really starting to get themselves in full force. We had a little problem with the event forms that Pam was filling out. I hope we got that solved. Have you submitted one, Pam, to see if it works for you?
There hasn't been an event yet since they updated the form, but I think we're hopeful that a correction has been made such that when you submit the form now, the person submitting it will also receive a copy of what was submitted just for our own records. And Beth gave the suggestion to put that copy in the committee report. So it's like our record of kind of the successes of our various events.
Plus, it's just a great way to collect data. And just let me know if that fix did not work.
I will.
So that I can take that up with the D4C woman again.
Yeah, thanks for checking on that.
Okay. And then there was an election last week, and I am one of 9 members on the D4C Executive Committee now. So lots more meetings, lots more work.
Thank you for doing that, Beth.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm really enjoying all that we are getting started there. The executive committee we're just now today starting to have an email chain to figure out when we'll have our first meeting, which I think will be next week. I think that's all I want. The rest is, in that lengthy report that is in the folder.
Very good. Peter does have a question, and then I also have a comment. Go ahead, Peter.
Hey, Beth, do you know whether the city budget town hall last week was recorded?
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you.
Or I could see if I can get you a link. Or it might be, you might be able to access it through the D4C website.
Yeah, I'll track it down. Thanks.
Okay.
And I do want to remind everybody that next month, our March meeting, our guest speaker will be the executive director of the D4 Coalition, Darlene Urban Garrett. She'll be giving a 50-minute talk talking about the coalition and what they're doing and how they're helping us at the neighborhood association level. And so, yeah.
We should call and remind her the day before. I'm happy to do that if you'd like, or send a little email.
I called her today to ask her, to remind her. Yeah, but that's a
No,
good
she
idea
missed
though,
the
Beth.
last-
You're going to probably see her, you'll probably be talking to her or hear from her over the next 30 days as well. So, yeah. You can remind her.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Oh, right. Over the next, I'm sorry. I was thinking she was coming next week, not next month. Okay.
No, not till the
It's
next
all good.
month.
Yes, I will be seeing her before that, and
Okay.
we'll definitely remind her.
Perfect. All right. Next up is equity.
Okay, this is Mr. Equity. Howdy, folks. First of all, before I get started, I did get a text from Patty Waitman Ingebretson. She apologizes deeply. She double booked, and the second thing she'd booked, she paid for. So you went to that, but she put her on for March 11th. March, she will definitely show up. Now, for equity, I have a lot from SWEC and the city and other areas on our webpage, particularly about the issue of immigrants being deported and what people can do about it. So I recommend you go to that area. We're also looking at the other issues being brought out from the nation and how they can trickle down to us that affect the funding for nonprofits, our point of view. I can say on behalf of the Equity Committee, and I think for the entire board, we are not dropping our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, however you make it, and we're doing it in a way that is a natural part of our neighborhood. End of story. And if Mr. Trump objects, I'll talk to him, explain the truth. Now, while we're here, let me go on to communication, because that's a very brief, unless there's any comment on the equity. We essentially have, as you may know, Kate Worth was our person. She actually has communication at mnapdx.org, has had to pull back for health reasons and personal commitments, but she is willing to continue her role as an advisor and trainer for people to do content in the various social media where she has good knowledge. And she and Peter and I are just about to finished off the draft of guidelines for communication that would be distributed to the full communications committee. But unfortunately, Kate came down with a bad case of the flu, so we haven't been able to meet yet, but it's coming soon. Anything?
I see your hand raised, Beth.
Oh, yes, Beth.
Yes. I'm sorry, Will doesn't know this yet, but I haven't had a chance to talk to him today. That I attended a meeting last night where an immigrant, an undocumented immigrant, spoke for half an hour and gave us some information about what would be helpful to the community and what is not helpful to the community. And they're going to be organizing a training for anybody who wishes to, get really deeply engaged in the issue. And I'm looking forward to taking that training and then making sure that we are doing things right. One thing I learned was the Know Your Rights cards that I suggested to Will that we link to. They are very helpful for people to learn their rights, but they are very unhelpful if an undocumented immigrant hands one of those to an ICE officer. If they hand one to an ICE officer, they are outing themselves and will be arrested. So if we do want to continue publicizing the Know Your Rights cards, which are important, we need to say, make sure not to give these to an ICE officer.
Yeah. I'll remember that.
My goodness, we live in interesting times right now.
Oh, the yeses, the things we can do and can't do, it was shocking and really educational. I was so happy to be there last night, and I'll keep you posted about when the training, I'll keep you posted on all of this. And the other equity thing that I still haven't told Will about is that I got some information about the new federal guidelines for web accessibility. So I'll be talking with you, Will, about that. It seems we're not in much of a big rush right now because they're revising them. So I finally got hold of the person I've been trying to talk to in England for ages. We had a 3.5 conversation last weekend about all this, and I have something to follow up on with regard to all of that as well.
Right. There are some, if I can, one brief thing about what you can or can't do. There has been a tradition that churches and schools and some other places were not open to ICE for pursuing people, and that actually is not the law in Oregon. And so as a sanctuary state and sanctuary city, technically people can go into churches and schools to bring people out for deportation. It's a pretty scary situation.
That's not what he told us last night.
Well, that's what the state said.
It just blows me away.
It's an evolving situation. Let's put it that way.
Yes, and the thing is, that it's up to us to tell them they're not invited in. I don't want to go into the whole thing right now. It's complicated, and I really would like to wait until I get the training and then come back to you all on that.
Yeah, please do, Beth.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. Okay, we have one committee report left. Well, two actually, but transportation. Stefan's not here tonight. So the last but not least is the Friends of Spring Garden Park. Pam?
Okie dokie, I'm back. This should be quick. So we're waiting to hear what the date for the movie in the park will be for this summer. It's the summer free for all cultural event series. We had an applicant, somebody who is not me, apply for that, and we were granted a movie, and we're just waiting to see what date that will be, and we're gonna learn that by this Friday. Let's see, thinking ahead just to Sunday Parkways, just a reminder, that'll be May 18th, and there will be opportunities in Spring Garden Park as well as in the Village and Gabriel Park for tabling and booths. So I think that in March, when the details of the event series are announced by PBOT, booth registration will open up. So just something to have on people's radar for whoever wants to register. And I will be spearheading the registration and the organization of the M&A booth, which I assume we want to have in the Village again. We could do it in Gabriel Park or Spring Garden Park, but it seems like the Village is the most relevant for us.
And it was the most visible.
Yes, I agree.
And accessible.
Yes. Just to touch back in on the kind of ongoing theme of community preparedness pods that are being spearheaded by Multnomah Net, following up on our presentation from, I think, last month, the Spring Garden Park area has 2 emerging pods that I'm aware of, and one of them is having their first meeting this month, and also had good representation at the monthly Multnomah Net meeting. So we're just trying to tie all that together with the park activities, and with the monthly net meetings being so close to the park, we hope that social media communications with the Friends of the Park group and so forth can kind of help promote those events as well, the monthly net meetings. So I think that for now, that is it for Friends of Spring Garden Park.
Thank you for your work on that. That is the last topic of the community, or pardon me, of our committee reports. I want to, before we end this meeting, remind all the board members and officers of our meeting next Tuesday in 7 days. Here, ideally in person, if you can, best case scenario, everybody's meeting here at the Rivers Gate in this front lobby and I had been calling this a retreat, but I've been using the wrong terminology, I believe. I think this is a work session. We need this as a work session. And in a best case scenario, if this goes out as good as I think it is going to work out for us to get together in these work sessions, we may start want to consider doing this every month, so that, we used to have our board meetings and then our general meeting. Board would meet 1 week before the general meeting, and it gave the board an opportunity to be able to get on the same page and be on a unified front at the regular meeting, at the general meeting. Since we changed to a 501c3 and we have new bylaws now, we've only had the one meeting, the regular meeting, once a month. And I feel like the board has not been able to center everybody's not been able to center on tasks, items, the vision, what we've been needing to do as a neighborhood association, as an organization. So let's see how it goes next Tuesday. I look forward to seeing everybody in person. If you can make it in person, I will have a Zoom option, but best case scenario is that you can make it in person, so we can just have that nice face-to-face.
Moses?
And let's see how it goes. Okay.
Moses?
Yeah.
I'm sorry I won't be able to attend. It is a very big birthday for me. I will
Is
be
it your
celebrating that
birthday?
I'm sorry?
Is it your birthday next Tuesday?
Yes, and it's a great big one. I'm not willing to spend it in meetings all day and night.
You don't want to
Actually,
spend your 50th birthday at a neighborhood association meeting?
Not the 60th or 70th either. This is the 80th.
No way.
Yes, way.
Beth. Okay.
So yes, I'm going to be going out with friends, but I just learned I'm having the first D4C executive committee meeting in the afternoon that day.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So I'll
Well,
attend that meeting and not attend our work group meeting. But y'all have fun.
You, Beth, you have my permission to miss that meeting. Oh my goodness.
you.
All right. I'm just laughing because you did kind of triple booked yourself there on that day, didn't you?
I didn't even know that until, actually my caregiver is supposed to come that day too, and I have to cancel him. So yes, but I didn't know about the executive committee meeting until just now, like
Gotcha.
5 minutes.
It's all good, Beth. It's all good. Peter, you have your hand up, and
Yeah,
last one of the day.
a couple quick things. One is I really want to encourage us not to do Zoom at this work session, to just have it be in person. The technology sometimes just gets in the way of our effectiveness. I leave that to you to consider. But my other question is, I have a handful of topics that I want to make sure we touch on. Do I just submit those agenda items to you?
Yeah, just get them over to me. I mean, I do want to get some sort of a general overview out, but I think the importance of this work session is for us all to be in the same room and to get centered on our mission and our intention. But then there's also a lot of work that we've got to kind of review. We've got a lot of balls up in the air right now, and I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I'm open throw me over what you want us to talk about. If any of the other board members have things that they want to talk about at this, throw that over to me. And makes sense.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. And the final item on the agenda was the confirmation of next month's regular meetings agenda. The first, we will have our special guest of the D4 Coalition Executive Director, Darlene Urban Garrett. She'll be speaking for 15, 20 minutes. And all the other projects that we're working on. So yeah, I look forward to it all. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Somebody wants to make a motion to adjourn.
So move, oh no. I move that we adjourn.
Sounds good. I don't need a second for that because technically I do need a second. Give me a second, somebody.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Carolyn. All right. We are adjourned, and I do appreciate everybody taking their time out of their night tonight to join us. We'll see you next month.
Thanks for a nice meeting, Moses, and all.
Sure.